Okay. All right. Let's wait for everyone to come in and then we'll get started. Get a little hydrated here. Karin, you got some water?
I do. Oh, I always do. Yeah, here it is.
There you go. There you go. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's 5 p.m. We'll get started here. And well, thank you everyone tonight for joining the CCG webinar tonight. Tonight we have a very special guest. Her name is Kaareen Hall. She is the CEO of UDirect IRA Services, and it's an investment pioneer as well. Now, Kaareen Hall from Irvine, California. That's where she's located right now. We just found out just before the call that she's just a few exits away from where my sister lives in Anaheim. Now, Kaareen is a true leader in the finance world. And even when times were tough, she started UDirect IRA Services and turned it into a huge, huge success. With over 20 years experience in the mortgage banking, real estate, managing properties, she found a special area that needed her skills, self-directed IRAs. Kaareen has helped thousands of Americans grow their savings by investing in different ways, managing over $1 billion in investments. That's billion with a B. Okay. We gotta learn from her. She's also an amazing speaker. She spoke at just in the last year at Bigger Pockets in Florida. She just came back from WowCon as well in Orlando. And Kaareen also supports Women's in Finance group through the Go Abundance Woman. So
Mhm.
I'm in the Go Abundance Men, and I found out she's in Go Abundance as well.
There you go.
So, and it's dedicating to lifting others as well. And to discover more about her services, make sure to check her out at udirectira.com. So, Kaareen, thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. I'm excited to present and teach everyone. So, and also, if you've got questions while I'm talking, if anyone does, just throw them in the chat, and we can get to all the questions by the
Let's
time.
do it. Let's do it. All right, Kaareen, you've got the stage, and we'll get more and more people as they hop in. And we'll start off with your presentation, and we'll end the evening with some Q&A. So you guys, as you guys are hearing this, make sure you get your questions ready, whether you're throwing it out there in the middle of the chat, or you can wait till the end. So, Kaareen,
So,
the
should I
stage
go
is
ahead?
yours.
Can I share my screen?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do
Yeah.
this. Screen sharing. Boom. There we go. All right. So, yeah. So, self-directed IRAs are just as, like you were saying, Alice, this amazing tool to build your wealth. And of course, it's to build your retirement wealth, right, for your future. But it's more than that, really, because if you're raising capital, because I'm sure some of your audience has deals and they need capital for their deals, as well as retire, wanting to build their own retirement. So we'll talk about tapping into this $40 trillion pool of assets for your deals, as well as how to build your own retirement. So that's what this is all about here tonight. So there we go. So my background, a little bit about it is, like you mentioned, I've been a property manager and a realtor for a short amount of time, and did mortgage loan servicing for a long while. And that was exactly, it's so much like what UDirect is, because we're taking care of accounts. I did loan origination during a couple of refi booms. And then during all that, became a real estate investor as well. And in, oh gosh, what year was it? I don't know, 2007, I got into the self-directed IRA space, working for a different company. And 2 years into that, I broke off and opened UDirect IRA Services in 2009. So that's my background. Also, I've had a real estate license in Washington, Texas, and California, a life and health license, and I hold some designations, self-directed IRA industry professional from the Retirement Industry Trust Association, and also a CISP from the American Bankers Association. There you go. So all that means is I know what I'm talking about, and there we go. So now you know. But my first career was radio announcer. I used to be when I lived in Seattle for a while and in Arizona, and I did, like smooth jazz, 107.5, the Oasis, and did various things like that. So here's a picture of me when I'm 20, which was obviously just a very, very short while. All right. Okay. So a little bit about my background. Now let's get into it and talk about retirement money. This is so crucial. Oh my gosh, when you think about retiring, even if you're making a decent, salary or whatever, decent income, you want to continue that and you want to have a good retirement and you want to, build your layers of what do you call it? Just like, you always want to have multiple streams of income coming into you today and in retirement. Self-directed IRAs, that's what they're for. They are to build your retirement, be one of those layers and one of those streams of income. So right now, there's about $40 trillion in American retirement in all these different kinds of piles of money, IRAs, 401ks, annuities, and all of these different kinds of funds. Pretty much all of this can be self-directed. That is great to know. So if you're raising capital, the problem that you solve is giving other people the opportunity to invest in your deal with you. And everyone wins, right? And you're able to create, your project or whatever you're doing. Someone else can benefit from the proceeds there, and then you just grow and grow. So it can be a real win-win situation in the best case scenario. But if you haven't heard about self-directed investing, I'll tell you what, you're not alone. It's crazy. You've been able to self-direct since 1975, almost 50 years, right? It's still the best kept secret. So I am constantly running into attorneys and CPAs and who don't know what this is, believe it or not. But there are plenty of them that do, and I work with a lot of attorneys and CPAs who are really adept at this. So, but a lot of people haven't heard of this even still. So the difference between a typical IRA and a self-directed IRA is just one thing, and that's the asset that goes inside. So when IRAs were created in 1975, it was the ERISA Act, the Employment Retirement Income Security Act. That created the IRA, and immediately the big brokerage houses got involved in, hey, put your money in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, but you could always invest in alternative assets. So eventually these things kind of got split up, and a typical financial advisor can't advise you to invest in alternative assets because they're licensed to help you with this, right? So self-directed IRAs sprung up about that time. And it's the same, basically like the bucket of assets with the same rules of how you put the money in, how it comes out. But now with the self-directed IRA, you can invest in things like multifamily, syndications, private equity, that sort of thing, mobile home parks. You can invest in self-storage. You can be the bank and lend money from your IRA to other people, secured and unsecured. You can buy performing and non-performing debt. Precious metals is another asset class. Anything that falls under that alternative asset class is perfect for a self-directed IRA. So that's the difference. An IRA is an IRA. The contribution limits are the same. How the money comes in and goes out is the same. What makes it self-directed is the asset that goes in. So again, IRS creates this 1975, and they come up with limits. And it's just so simple. It's just kind of genius in its simplicity. The limits are that your IRA can only invest, or cannot invest, I should say, cannot invest in life insurance contracts and collectibles, all right? The two things you cannot invest in. That's pretty simple, but it does actually cover a lot of things. So you're not going to invest in coin collection, although you can invest in certain high levels of purity kinds of metals. You're not going to invest in artwork or anything that you might collect, and also no life insurance contracts. All right, everything else is pretty much okay. But there are rules, and if you're going to play the self-directed IRA game, you want to win the game, right? So you need to play by the rules, and the rules can be found in the Internal Revenue Code, and we'll get to that in a minute. But also this really nice little publication called 590. You just go into irs.gov and you type in publication 590, and you're going to learn all about the traditional and Roth IRA. I mean, really everything soup to nuts, super easy to read. So that's just one authoritative, just sort of, reference that you can have. But what's disallowed, and these are the rules, is that you don't borrow money from your IRA to use personally or borrow it at all. Yes, you can take it out for 60 days without it being taxable. That's true, but it's not a real loan. It's just taking it out and you have to get it back in within 60 days. You don't sell anything you already own to your IRA. So I've had people say, wow, this sounds great because I have these rental properties. I'll put my rental properties in my self-directed account. Doesn't work that way. Your IRA can invest in real estate, but it has to be a new deal where your IRA goes out and buys that asset, puts it in. Buy. Your IRA is not collateral or security for a loan, and you don't use the IRA to buy anything for personal use. With self-directed IRAs, it's all about arm's length. You know, that's kind of a good rule of thumb. Hey, can I do this? Then the answer is it arm's length? And if it is, yeah, you can do it. If it's not arm's length, then you really want to think twice about it. So here we go with the big hand. Stop here. Stop for prohibited transactions. You can read about these. It's Internal Revenue Code 4975. Okay, IRC 4975, big rule book with a little clause in there talking about what you can't do. And so to summarize, we'll be doing that here in this presentation. It's one of the things is that neither you nor any disqualified person can benefit from the IRA. So disqualified people first, they're your ascendants and descendants, right? It's your parents, your grandparents, you and your spouse, your children and your grandchildren are disallowed or disqualified people, plus a 50-50 business partner or a fiduciary. Like a fiduciary is somebody who has a duty to act in your best interest, like an attorney, CPA, or perhaps a realtor. Okay, so those people are disallowed. Everybody else is okay. So where you're up and down your family tree is no, out to the side is okay. So your brothers and sisters, and your nieces and nephews, your aunts and uncles, you can invest with them. Your IRA could make a note, for example, to your aunt so that she could start a company, but your IRA is not going to make a note to your mom so that she can, do whatever she wants to do. It doesn't work that way. A mom is disallowed, and that would be a prohibited transaction. You don't buy, sell, or exchange assets between the plan, the IRA, and any of these people. So your IRA doesn't, sell a house to your children, for example. And also, if you're disallowed, remember ascendants and descendants and all that, you can't provide services to the plan. So if your IRA does something like buy a house, you cannot do any of the sweat equity. You're not going to swing the hammers. You're not going to do any of that. If you are a general partner and you are raising capital and you actually get a check, you make income from the whole deal, you are disallowed to your own fund that you're raising money for because you're offering services to the plan. And you would also receive personal benefits, so you're out too. So this gives you an idea of prohibited transactions, but it can get complicated. So what we do is offer a 20-minute free consultation. And then you can call us, we'll have a chat with you, tell us about your deal, and we'll go through the prohibited transactions and ask you about who's involved in the deal and all this, and help you kind of make the decision about if you want to go forward or not, if you are finding a prohibited transaction. So I like this quote: retirement can be a reward for saving and investing or a punishment for not doing it, right? So you want to reward yourself. You definitely want to, contribute annually to your IRA, save for your future. And right now, at the beginning of the year, up until your tax filing date, you can contribute a prior year contribution if you haven't already done that, and a current year. So until April 15th, for example, if you have a traditional IRA, you can contribute the 2023 contribution and the 2024 contribution and stick that money in an IRA and perhaps get a tax break for doing that. So that's a good thing to know. It's not just about investing, it's about saving. So as I mentioned, my background includes being a mortgage loan officer, and it was a residential loan officer. So when I found out that a bank will actually make a loan to an IRA account, I was pretty astonished because an account, how's the account going to pay it back? Well, here you go. It's called a non-recourse loan. So if your IRA were to borrow money and not pay it back, then the lender could only come after that property, couldn't seize any other assets in the IRA, and couldn't come after you personally. So that's great. Of course, you can't personally guarantee a loan to your IRA because then you would be offering a personal benefit to the IRA. But these non-recourse loans are pretty powerful. Not a lot of lenders to choose from, though. So if this interests you, we have a list that we're happy to share. It's not necessarily companies we endorse, but they are companies that we're willing to share with you just as a convenience. So you can email us info@udirectira.com, and we'd be very, very happy to share that list with you of non-recourse lenders. They're going to want more money in the game, like more equity in the game from the IRA than a typical loan, like if you're buying a primary residence. So your IRA may need to come up with like 50%, and then the other 50% could be a non-recourse loan. Now, it sounds good. We all know the power of leverage, right? But when you have, when you're working with an IRA and the IRA takes on leverage, it can lead to a tax. And this can be a very big surprise. Yes, IRAs are tax-free or tax-deferred entities. Income tax free or deferred. UBIT and UDFI are a different kind of tax. And you can read about them, publication 598 on the IRS's website. And so UDFI is unrelated debt financed income tax. If your IRA borrows money or your IRA profits because there was borrowed money, it's going to lead to this tax. For example, if you invest in a syndication and that syndicator is taking on your levels, what do they call it, a capital stack, right? And part of that capital stack includes leverage. And your IRA is in there as an equity partner, you may have to have your IRA file what's called a Form 990T. Your tax person will calculate that form. If your IRA is buying a property, a structure, and takes on a non-recourse loan, the percentage of the deal that is leverage would be subject to this tax. Okay, UBIT is a different kind of tax. It's unrelated business income tax, and that's when your IRA invests in an active business. It used to be we did a lot of flipping back in the recession after we had all those houses that were going for so little, pennies on the dollar. Flipping is active, and it led to UBIT. So I'm telling you this so that when you play the self-directed IRA game, you know the rules and you're not surprised by some of the things that may come at you. And again, we're here for all your questions. So your IRA acquires an asset, and whatever it may be, there are going to be expenses of that asset. No. So all expenses of the asset that the IRA owns have to be paid for by the IRA. Right? So what if you don't have enough and you run short? That could be a problem because you're going to have to pay these expenses. You don't want a prohibited transaction. That means it's game over for the IRA, right? And so it doesn't happen very often, by the way, prohibited transactions, but this is what you do. If you don't have enough money in the IRA to pay the expense, well, you make a contribution. And the amount that you can contribute depends upon your age and your income and your account type, right? So you can talk to your tax advisor and they can advise you. And then since they know you're going to make this contribution, they also know to put it on your tax return too. You could liquidate other assets that are in the IRA. And maybe you've got, say, maybe some gold bullion or something, and you liquidate it and use that cash to make up for the shortfall. You could transfer money in from another account or do a rollover of a previous employer plan. That's an easy thing to do. You could take on a debt partner, or if you just can't come up with the money, you might want to liquidate that asset and just chuck it and sell it because it may have too many expenses. So if you're going to use a self-directed IRA to acquire real estate, which is really very popular, first, you want to make sure you have the account open before you make an offer. You want to shop for your asset, your property, because when you present the offer to purchase, first off, that offer to purchase shows that the IRA is the buyer, not you personally. And then you're going to want the IRA to come up with earnest money. So you need to have money in the account before you make the offer so that earnest money can be paid. So you give us a direction letter, tell us where to send the money and so forth. We review the documents, and assuming it's all looks good, they'll fund it. Then it will record, and then your tenants can move in. You get the keys, tenants move in, and then they will make their rent checks payable to your IRA. Now, understand that you cannot collect the rent checks personally. They can't be made out to you personally, I should say. And this is a great time when a property manager could be just a huge help, because you're not allowed to go in there and, fix the garbage disposal, right? Or change out the water heater or something. A property manager is a great way to keep it on. So let's talk about an exception with self-directed IRA investing. I was telling you how people who are disallowed are ascendants and descendants. But in this example, we're going to have a father and a son, and they're going to buy a house together or a condo, whatever. So dad has cash, son has a traditional IRA. And in this scenario, they're going to split that property, that purchase 50-50. So dad comes in with 50% as cash, and son comes in with 50% as a traditional IRA. And so they're going to vest on title as tenants in common. And you're like, well, Kaareen, you just said these people are disallowed, and they are, but it's like a loophole, because as long as they didn't have any ownership interest in the deal beforehand, they can invest and fund concurrent, right? And then all the money will hit at one time, and it will record at title at one time as one thing. After the deal is solidified by recording, they can never buy each other out. They can never have personal use of the property. It's going to be a non-owner occupied rental, right? And that's what an IRA is. And after the deal, again, they never buy each other out, and all expenses are going to be split. In this case, pro rata, which is 50-50. That's how they're doing it in this scenario. And when the rent checks come due, half goes to dad, half goes to the son's IRA. So there could be some complications there. A property manager, when it's real estate, can really sort out these complications, because you might have to have one renter making two rent checks. So a property manager makes it easy that the renter simply makes a check payable to the property manager, and the property manager splits it to the parties. So when it comes to self-directed IRAs, this is something you've probably heard of. It's called a checkbook IRA. Yeah, it's kind of called. What it really is an IRA-owned LLC. So it's a special purpose LLC just for this purpose. It acts as like a pass-through entity, for your IRA. It's acting like the IRA. So the way you set this up is you have a self-directed IRA, it has money in it. You have a third party create this LLC over here. The IRA buys 100% of the initial units of that LLC. Great. So the money goes from the IRA to the LLC's checking account. The LLC buys the property, right? Now the LLC has the property, and it's owned by the IRA. So IRA is the owner, LLC. The LLC is the asset within the IRA. So this is a great thing to do, but if you're going to take on this responsibility, you're going to have to know all the prohibited transaction rules, or at least have us on speed dial before you make a deal and talk to us, so that you're not making a prohibited transaction, because it does follow all the same rules. So with great power comes great responsibility. But this is still a tool you can use. So just so you know that, it can be. When we talk about self-directed IRAs, it's an umbrella term. It refers to a lot of different things. You can self-direct a traditional Roth, SEP, simple spousal inherited IRA. You can self-direct a solo 401k, even an HSA, a health savings account. All of these can be self-directed. So it's not just a traditional IRA or just a Roth IRA. It's all of this that can be self-directed. And that's good to know. It gives you a lot more freedom. And if you're raising capital, maybe some of your investors will have these sorts of accounts that you can. Now, if you've got money with a current employer, you might not be able to move that money. So that's important to know. If you have a 401k, what you can do is ask the plan administrator for what's called an in-service transfer. So you're working there, you're in service, and you want to move that money from your employer plan into a self-directed IRA. So you have to see if you qualify. And if you do, you can do an in-service rollover and move the money. Otherwise, you have to wait until you leave the service of that company. So this is a really great topic. It's one of my favorite topics, and it's due diligence. Because self-directing isn't that difficult when it comes to setting up an account and funding it. That's just administrative work. It's not, it's pretty straightforward. But what's really the challenge of self-directing, or the fun part really, is doing your due diligence. Are you making a good investment? So how do you do due diligence? And Alex is shaking his head like, absolutely. So it depends on what the asset is. If it is a security like a syndication or a large note or something, you can Google the person and find out who they are. Put the word fraud after them. You could go to FINRA's website, what it's called broker check. So if someone has got a Reg D offering or something, you can go to broker check and check them out and see if they've had any complaints against them. Talk to other people who've invested with the asset sponsor. Very crucial. How have they been paid? How were they treated? What kind of documentation did they receive? What kind of reporting did they receive? Because when your IRA loses money, it just loses money. You don't write it off. It's just simply lost. and it's difficult to replace those losses because of contribution caps. So you want to play this game to win, and that's the reason I'm here, is to tell you how to play the game to win. So do your due diligence, check out these people, check out the asset itself. If it's real estate, do a title report, like a preliminary title report. Does the person selling the property actually own it? That would be good. That's a really good thing to do. So lots and lots of different ways to do due diligence, but make sure you do that first, even before you open an account. Make sure you know and really, really understand your assets. That's the way to really win this game. Like I said, self-directing itself is not that tough. It's 1, 2, 3, open, fund, invest. You open an account, super simple, fill out a form. You fund the account either by contributing, you're making a contribution from your own cash, doing an IRA to IRA transfer, or rolling over a previous employer. Pretty straightforward. So you opened it, you funded it, now you can invest. So you select your asset. The IRA is the investor, not you personally. You give us the information, tell us where to send the money. Then you self-direct it. You know, the money, all the proceeds from that deal come back in the IRA that owns the asset. And if that asset has any expenses, they're paid for by that self-directed IRA. Never, ever, ever by you personally. And by the way, if you're self-directing and your asset sponsor sends the proceeds check to you personally, made out to you, do not cash that check. That would be a prohibited transaction. All the proceeds have to be made payable to your self-directed IRA. So that is, you know, the soup to nuts kind of overview of self-directed investing. And I see we have a couple questions, and I'd be really happy to take them, because there are a lot of, we haven't talked about required minimum distributions or some other things that are kind of new for 2024. Be happy to answer all your questions.
All right. Kaareen, thank you so much. So the first question I have was, when you were talking about how this is prohibited and that's prohibited, what if you were buying it from an LLC that you own or control? How does that work?
What a great question. I get asked this a lot. So, right. So it is, the ownership is transparent to the IRS. In other words, if it's your LLC that you own, it's you, you know, and so they have something called the indirect rule. You can't do it directly. You can't do it indirectly. So if your IRA can invest in a deal personally, you can't just put it in your LLC and have that. It's the same thing to the IRS.
Mm,
Sense?
yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then Jay's got a question. Does the UDFI and the UBIT apply even if you convert your Roth IRA into a self-directed IRA, given you've already paid taxes on it when you put
Right.
the money
Another
into
common
IRA?
question, frequently asked question. So understand that when you convert money to Roth, you get, let's drink some water. You get a 1099, and hang on. You get a 1099, and then you income tax. UBIT and UDFI are not income tax. They're special kinds of tax. I sit on the board of directors for a charity, and that charity also files a 990 because it's a tax exempt entity. So it's a special kind of tax for tax exempt entities. So it's not income tax, it's a different kind of tax. And so yes, even if you've already paid the tax on a Roth conversion, the income tax, you could possibly owe UBIT or UDFI if there was if your IRA earned money because of leverage, or if your IRA invested in an active business.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Anyone else has questions for Kaareen here?
I see one here. Anonymous says they have a self-directed IRA. It's in an LLC bank account now. And this person is going to invest in private equity. So if you've got a self-directed IRA, that's an account. If you have a LLC, so you've got an IRA-owned LLC, and that LLC has a checking account at a bank, right? So you want to invest in private equity. Yes, you can absolutely do that. Just do your due diligence. No problem at all. And yes, you can absolutely do that. So in this case, the LLC would be the investor. The LLC is owned by the IRA, of course, but the LLC is the investor. And there you go. So you're the trustee of the plan. And so yes, you can do that.
Now, Kaareen, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was wondering, are there, a lot of benefits to doing it this way? Are there any downsides to it?
To self-directing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, pros and cons for sure. So with real estate in particular, I think with all other assets, it's not as profound as with real estate, because we all know that when we invest in real estate personally, we can have all kinds of personal tax deductions. I mean, gosh, depreciation, yay, and so many other things. But when an IRA invests, you don't get those kinds of tax breaks. You don't get tax breaks for your mortgage interest paid or anything like that. The tax break that you get is that the proceeds are going to be taxed for your tax. And that's great because you have a liquidity event, you sell that property, the money comes back in the IRA, and then all that money can go back out in the next deal. It's not diminished by tax. That's the upside. But the downside is that when you buy real estate with an IRA, you don't get to take depreciation because there's no tax. There's nothing to depreciate.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. Now, are there say if someone were to do a Roth IRA, right?
Right.
And they've been investing in a Roth and they learn about this all of a sudden. And they're like, well, should I take my Roth money and should I put my money into a Roth and then do an investment? Or should I just take my own money and just do the investment with my own money? What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great conversation to have with your asset sponsors, and I should say, like your advisors, your financial advisors. But really, you want to do just a pros and cons list, a simple, good and bad sort of list on a piece of paper. What's the upside? For example, if you're going to invest personally, it's typically because you want the tax advantage. But sometimes you don't have the money personally to make, to take down a deal where you may have, like maybe you left a job and you have a large 401k that you've left from this other company. You can bring that money into this deal. And instead of investing that money in the stock market, you prefer to invest that money in alternative assets, assets you can touch. And so if that's the case, then you might prefer to self-direct instead of doing it yourself.
And you mentioned earlier, this has been around since the 70s or like
1975, right?
1975.
Yeah.
Why is it that whether, we don't know about it, we're not taught about this, why is that? Why are we kept in the dark about this problem?
I think because with self-directed IRAs, we don't take a lot of your profits as our proceeds, so you'll never see the self-directed industry, even as a whole, having an ad on the Super Bowl, for example. Like whose money is paying for those Super Bowl ads when you see, a large, financial firm, it's your money that would have been in your pocket. So I think that's one of the reasons. It's just, I don't, and so because it's a smaller industry, I think maybe 4% of all IRAs are self-directed. So it's still a small percentage. And so it's kind of hidden from view. But hey, we've got a question from Sunny. Would you like me to take it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sunny talks about a capital call letter has been delayed. I'm not sure what that means. But one thing we've been seeing a lot for people who have invested in syndications is that the asset sponsor has taken on layers of, again, the capital stuff. And maybe they have leverage that's matured, a loan that's now reached its maturity date, and they have to take on new leverage at a higher rate. And so now there's more expense. So we're seeing a lot of capital calls. So when an IRA has a capital call, that capital call has to come from IRA funds. And that's another reason to leave a cushion in your IRA, leave a cushion of idle cash to cover these kinds of expenses. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, Sunny, but that's something that we're seeing a lot.
I'm sorry, can I just add some more details to the question?
Sure.
Okay, so the funds are right now sitting in a bank account, in the LLC account that was set up for the purpose of investing into a private equity deal. But unfortunately, the private equity will not be ready to accept the funds for at least 2 months because they're just delayed with a lot of the things that they're doing right now. So my problem is the funds are sitting in a bank account. They're doing nothing. They're not making any money. So my question, can I move these funds into a CD account in the same bank or maybe a money market account, and then move them back into the LLC when I'm ready to invest it into the private equity?
Yes, you can. So let's talk about this. So what Sunny has is an IRA-owned LLC. It's a self-directed IRA that has a special purpose LLC. So he's using the special purpose LLC, which is like one step removed. And yes, that IRA-owned LLC can invest in a CD. It's an asset. So you can do that, and you can certainly put it in for 2 months, and you can exactly execute that plan the way you described, because it's an IRA LLC.
But does the CD also have to be in the name of the IRA, or can it
It has
just
to be in the name of the LLC that the IRA is, yes.
Oh, the LLC. Okay, the LLC can have the CD, or the LLC can have open another account. It's a money market account, and I can put the funds there also.
That's true. Yes.
Oh, okay. So
But just make sure that you don't take an extension of credit. You don't want a credit card or anything. That would be bad. But yes, you can definitely have a money market. You can have a CD in your IRA-owned LLC. Absolutely.
Okay, so I can just move them around and then as many accounts as I want, as long as the account is in the name of the LLC and the funds are there to show if there is an audit.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I think next time I'm going to consider using your company, because the company that I was using, I'm currently using, I don't want to mention any names, but they're like, well, we can't help you with that. Once we transfer the funds into your LLC, that you can do whatever you want with it. It's your problem. Or you can talk to your tax advisor. And
no, that's right. So the money is in your LLC. They're exactly right. So the money's in the LLC. Now you can do whatever you want and take that LLC money and invest it. Absolutely. So they were correct.
Okay, but it has to be, when I open a new bank account, it has to also be in the name of the LLC. That's what you're saying.
No, you don't have to open a new bank account. You only need one bank account.
No, but when I'm putting the money market into a money market funds, into a money market account, I need a separate money market account, right?
Think of it like this. You've got money in an IRA-owned LLC, a checkbook IRA. You've got a checking account for the LLC with money in it. And the purpose of that LLC is to acquire assets. So you can, in any way that you like, that LLC can go out and acquire assets with the money that's in the LLC. If you want to put it in a money market, whatever that looks like, yes, go ahead. If you want to take that money from the IRA-owned LLC's checking account and put it in the CD, you can do that. Does that make sense?
Oh, I can. So, but you're saying the CD has to be titled in the name of the LLC?
Okay, so the IRA owns the LLC, right? Mm-hmm. The LLC is an entity, a legal entity. Right. The LLC has a checking account. Right. So anything that the LLC buys is owned by the LLC. Makes sense?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So since the LLC is the owner, then any asset owned by the LLC will be titled as, as owned by the LLC.
Okay, got it. Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks for the question, Sunny. I think Sunny was saying that his current company didn't even tell him that. So, hey, that's it.
A lot of times we're not used to this kind of dialogue or having these conversations because self-directed IRAs, like you said, it's not super mainstream. I wish it was more mainstream, but because it isn't, these things can be complicated. Where you and I understand a mortgage backward and forward, even though it's complicated, but pretty much everyone understands a mortgage because we all go get one or learn about it. So, but with self-directed IRA accounts, there are special rules. So I'm always happy to go deep into the rules.
I would imagine when someone signs up with you that they have a lot of questions at the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
They do. Yeah.
How do they just reach out to you directly? Do you have a team that works with people?
That's right. We sure do. So we have a wonderful team of professionals. And so my staff will take care of you and answer all your questions. Again, we offer the 20-minute free consultation. And so I'll put a link here in the chat for our free consultation. And then if you want to just reach out and schedule something, then we can do that. Here we go in the chat.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure to put that in our posts and attach that to all the videos as well.
Yeah, and there are questions. It's for example, prohibited transactions aren't always cut and dry. That's why we'll always talk to people before they invest, because you could own this house and then the house personally, you live here, and then this house next door goes up for sale and you want your IRA to acquire it. That could be a prohibited transaction, right? Because if you own this house and you buy this house, you're affecting the value. You're affecting the property value. What if you share a driveway? Well, then you're receiving personal benefit from your IRA every time you drive in your driveway, you know? So it can kind of blow your mind. So we definitely want to talk to you about your deals, but usually it's not that complicated, especially syndications are not that complicated. We just want to make sure it's arm's length and that you're not receiving personal benefit and that what you're doing with the account is for retirement purposes only. Those are some rules of thumb.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, guys? Jay, you got any questions?
Not really. I think one clarification on the arm's length transaction, Kaareen, I had was even if it's not your LLC, if you're one of the members of the LLC, you cannot be an active member of the LLC or even a manager of the LLC, correct? It
That
needs
is
to be
correct.
truly
Right.
passive investment that
Yes.
your IRA makes. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Right. Yes, exactly right. Because if you're making decisions for that LLC, you're offering services to the plan that will affect the profitability. And if you're also making decisions, you might be getting compensated by the LLC. That would really be a pretty good transaction.
Understood. Yeah, no, this was super helpful. Really
Yeah.
important topic. So I'm sure folks on this call will be using that 20-minute consultation link. So really appreciate that as well.
I could tell you one thing that's interesting for 2024, something that's hot off the press, if you like. So if you have children like I do who are done with college and they have a 529 plan that they didn't use, and that 529 plan is 15 years old or older, they can move that money into a Roth account for themselves. They can directly transfer that 529 money into a Roth. And the transfer would be like a contribution. So if they're under, I assume your kids would be under 50. And so they could move over like $7,000 a year. That's the 2024 contribution limit for a Roth. So they could move over $7,000 a year from that 529, put it in a Roth into a cap of $35,000. They can move up to $35,000 of that 529 plan into a Roth over time.
Oh, wow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's effective.
We can't move it back to my Roth. Yeah.
No, because you're not the owner. Yeah, give it to dad. Though that's disallowed. So prohibited. Disallowed party.
That's awesome. Frederick, I saw that you had a hand up earlier. Do you still have a question?
Yeah, I do. I've never heard of this, right? So I'm wondering, you might have said it earlier, but is it because like Fidelity and Charles Schwab's and they don't offer this?
Right, they can't offer it because they have series like 6, 63, 66, 7 licenses, and they're not licensed to recommend alternative assets to you.
Okay.
And because there's so much more money in mainstream than there is an alternative, that's why you don't know about it.
Okay. So to switch to this, we would have to roll over to an account with you for self-directed.
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, you would liquidate to cash and then move over. Yeah.
So essentially, this is all about moving the money from Wall Street to Main Street, right?
Yes, exactly. Right. There you go. That's exactly it. And it's when you talk about Main Street, it makes me think about after the recession and after COVID, when businesses closed down. Self-directed IRAs are like a grassroots level to get things going back. For example, maybe a friend who had a business like in a strip mall and they couldn't have customers coming to their business. They lost their business. Well, now they want to restart their business following the pandemic. Self-directed IRAs can be a debt or equity partner in that business. Probably a debt partner to avoid UDFI, but that they could be, your IRA can make a loan to someone for their business, secured or unsecured. So it's a pretty powerful way of building other people back up and helping people fund their businesses. Creates jobs,
It's really good to know. These are all the things that I've never even heard of. Right? Yeah. So for those of you out there who have an IRA and would like to figure out, hey, what else can I do with it? Make sure you schedule that free consultation with Kaareen, right?
That'd be great.
And Kaareen's got the link below. Those of you who are listening to this call afterwards, her link's going to be there. I'm going to make sure we get your QR code, Kaareen, and we're going to post that as well. And we'll go from there.
Here you go. There you are. Excellent. Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for the evening. And make sure to schedule this call with Kaareen. Kaareen, thank you so much for spending your time with us here tonight.
My pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Quick question. Can we get a list of the lenders for this?
Yes. And so I'm going to put, you have to email me. So email me info@udirect.
IRA.com. Okay.
Yeah.
I see that here. Yeah, I see that on your, okay. Yeah, I'll send you an email right now. Okay,
Yeah,
thanks so
send
much.
an email to me there, and then we'll respond with that list of non-recourse lenders. Very happy to do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, bye.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Kaareen, thank you so much. Everyone,
you.
you guys have a great night.
You too.
Bye now.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Kaareen. Bye-bye now.